Sagebrush Flats, Nebraska. 1879. The land office had burned 3 nights ago, and now half the homestead claims in the territory were in question. Bridget Brennan stood in her photography studio doorway, watching smoke still rising from the courthouse square 2 streets over, knowing her father's claim deed had been in that building. She was 32, auburn hair pulled into a severe bun, green eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed spectacles, wearing a high-necked gray dress with practical sleeves. Her father had died 6 months back, leaving her the studio and a lakeside homestead she'd never seen, and she'd sworn to every doubting man in town that she could run both alone. The cold rain started as a mist, turning the rutted street to mud. A rider came fast from the north road, raining hard in front of the saloon across the way. Bridget stepped back inside, but not before she saw the man's face, pale and wild. Something worse than the fire was coming. She locked her studio door and checked the Remington Derringer in her desk drawer, the one her father had insisted she learn to shoot. The town felt wrong, like the moment before lightning strikes. Marcus Fletcher heard the rider before he saw him. He sat at the upright piano in the Gold Dust Saloon, playing something slow and minor, his fingers barely touching the keys. He was 34, dark brown hair touching his color, hazel eyes that missed nothing, lean build in a black vest over a white shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows. The piano bench hid a leather satchel containing a surveyor's map his brother had died to get him. A map showing where the real boundary lines ran, proof that half the claims filed in the past year were deliberately misrecorded. His brother had worked for the land office. His brother had learned too much. Marcus kept playing as the rider burst through the saloon doors, shouting for the sheriff. The Harmon boy is missing. Went out to check his family's fence line this morning and never came back. The saloon erupted in noise, men pushing back chairs, calling for lanterns and horses. Marcus stopped playing. He knew that homestead. It sat right on the edge of the territory his map showed as fraudulently claimed, land that freight agent Ira Wainwright had been quietly buying up through proxies. A missing child was terrible. A missing child in that particular spot was no accident. He closed the piano lid and reached for his coat. The rain was heavier now, drumming on the roof. Marcus slipped out the side door and crossed the alley to the back of the photography studio. He'd watched Bridget Brennan for 3 months, ever since he'd arrived in Sagebrush Flats. She was smart, stubborn, and alone. She didn't know it yet, but her father's homestead sat dead center on Wainwright's target map. He knocked on her back door. 2 quick raps.
Who is it?
Her voice came sharp through the wood.
Marcus Fletcher. From the saloon. We need to talk about your land.
A pause. Then the bolt slid back. She opened the door 6 inches. Derringer in her hand. Not quite pointed at him, but close.
I know who you are. You play piano, and you listen. Why are you at my door talking about land I've never even visited?
Because the Harmon boy went missing this morning on the property next to yours. Because the land office burned, and now nobody can prove what they own. Because there's a man in this town who wants your homestead badly enough to make people disappear.
She stared at him, rain blowing past her into the dim studio. Then she lowered the Derringer and opened the door wider.
Come in. Talk fast.
He stepped inside, and she locked the door behind him. The studio smelled of chemicals and paper. Shelves lined with bottles and trays. a large camera on a tripod in the corner. Marcus pulled the map from his satchel and spread it on her worktable.
This is what my brother died for. The real survey lines. See this section here? That's your father's claim. This section, this one, and this one, they're all recorded wrong in the land office. They actually belong to the railroad land grant, which means they can be bought cheap if someone knows the right people. Ira Wainwright knows the right people.
The freight agent.
He's not just moving goods. He's moving people out, buying bad claims, intimidating homesteaders, rerouting supplies so families can't last the winter. He wants a solid block of land to sell to Eastern investors for 10 times what he paid. Your property is the last piece he needs.
Bridget leaned over the map, her finger tracing the boundary lines. Her hand was steady, but her jaw was tight.
My father filed that claim legally. I have a copy of the deed.
Which was in the land office when it burned. Convenient.
You're saying Wainwright set the fire.
I'm saying my brother found proof Wainwright bribed a surveyor and a clerk. I'm saying my brother's horse threw him on a clear day on flat ground 2 weeks later. I'm saying the Harmon boy disappeared right where your land meets the disputed zone.
She looked up at him, green eyes hard.
Why tell me? Why not go to the sheriff?
Because the sheriff takes his meals at the freight office. Because I don't know who else Wainwright owns. Because you have a reason to care, and a spine that doesn't bend.
She studied him for a long moment, then folded the map and handed it back.
I'm going out to my homestead. Tonight. If that boy is hurt or scared, every hour matters. You can come or not.
I'm coming. But we need supplies, and we need to be smart. Wainwright has men.
I have a wagon, and I know how to shoot.
He almost smiled.
I believe you. Let's move. They loaded her wagon in the alley behind the studio, working fast and quiet. Blankets, lanterns, her camera equipment because she trusted her eyes and her plates more than anyone's word. A shotgun her father had kept under the counter, hardtack and coffee, rope. The rain came down steady, cold for late fall, the kind of rain that turned roads to soup and made the prairie a miserable place to be. Marcus hitched her horse, a sturdy sorrel mare that didn't spook easy. Bridget climbed up to the bench seat, her skirts already heavy with water. He swung up beside her, and she snapped the reins. The wagon lurched forward into the dark. The road north, out of Sagebrush Flats, ran along the lakeshore for 3 miles before turning west into open prairie. The lake was invisible in the rain, just a sense of open space to their right and the smell of water and reeds. No other wagons on the road. No riders. The town fell away behind them, and the night closed in. Nothing but the creak of wheels and the drum of rain on the canvas tarp over their supplies.
How did your brother get that map?
He worked as a junior surveyor for the land office. Noticed discrepancies in the filings. Started comparing old survey markers to new claims. Found a pattern.
And then he died.
And then he died.
She didn't say anything for a while, just drove, her hands steady on the reins.
I'm sorry.
Me too. But if we can prove what he found, it won't be for nothing.
If we find the Harmon boy alive, that's what matters first.
Agreed.
The road turned west, and the ground rose slightly, prairie grass bending under the wind. Bridget's homestead was another 2 miles. A cabin and barn her father had built but never lived in, sitting on a low rise above the lake with reeds thick along the shore. She'd been out once, right after he died, just to see it. One room, solid walls, a good well. Her father had meant it as a refuge, a place to go if the town turned hard. Now she was going there, because it already had. They saw the light before they reached the turnoff, a flicker through the rain to the south. Too bright for a lantern. Marcus touched her arm.
Stop.
She pulled the mare to a halt. They both stared at the light. It was moving, bobbing like a torch. Then another light joined it, and another. Men on foot, searching.
They're looking for the boy.
Or making sure nobody else finds him.
Bridget's hands tightened on the reins.
We go around. Come at the homestead from the lakeside.
Through the reeds?
I know the way. My father showed me.
She turned the wagon off the road, driving slow through the grass. The ground was soft, but not yet mud, the mare picking her way careful. The lights behind them kept moving, spreading out in a line. Bridget aimed for a gap in the reed beds, a narrow track that led down to the water. The wagon jolted over roots and stones, the canvas tarp snapping in the wind. Marcus held the side rail, watching the lights. They were closer now. Close enough to hear voices carried on the wind. Wainwright's men. He recognized the loud bellow of the freight agent himself, shouting orders.
He's out here, leading the search.
Or leading the cover-up.
The wagon splashed into shallow water, reeds closing around them on both sides. The mare snorted, but kept going, water to her knees. Bridget steered by memory and feel, the cabin somewhere ahead in the dark. The voices faded behind them, muffled by rain and reeds. After 10 minutes that felt like an hour, solid ground rose under the wheels, and the cabin appeared. A dark square against the slightly less dark sky. Bridget pulled the wagon up beside the barn, and they both jumped down. The cabin door was closed, but not locked. Marcus pushed it open, lantern raised. Empty. Dirt floor, a table, a rope bed frame, a fireplace cold and dark. But on the table, something that shouldn't be there. A small book, leather-bound, swollen with water. Bridget picked it up and opened it carefully. The pages were handwritten, recipes for baking, notes on measurements and temperatures. Her breath caught.
This belonged to Sarah Harmon, the boy's mother. I photographed her wedding 2 years ago. She showed me this book, said it was her grandmother's.
Why would it be here?
Bridget turned pages, her fingers gentle on the damp paper. Then she stopped. In the margin of a recipe for rye bread, a line of text in different ink. Not instructions, numbers and initials. She turned more pages. More notes, tucked between recipes. Dates, amounts, names. Her hand started to shake.
This isn't a recipe book. It's a ledger. Look. Payments. Shipments. Claims. She was keeping records.
Of what?
Of everything Wainwright was doing. She must have worked in the freight office. She saw the bribes, the false filings. She wrote it all down and hid it in a recipe book.
And if Wainwright found out?
He'd take the book and anyone who knew about it.
The boy. He must have found it, or his mother told him. He ran.
Or she sent him here to hide it. My father knew Sarah. He helped her family file their claim. She'd trust this place.
A sound outside. faint, but close. The snap of a twig. Marcus doused the lantern and pulled Bridget away from the door. They pressed against the wall, barely breathing. Footsteps on the porch, slow and careful. Then a voice, small and terrified. A child's voice, boy's pitch, cracking with fear. The boy called out, "Is anyone there? Please, I'm cold." Bridget moved before Marcus could stop her, yanking the door open. A boy stood in the rain, maybe 10 years old, soaked through, shivering so hard he could barely stand. She pulled him inside, and Marcus shut the door, relighting the lantern. The boy's eyes were huge, his face pale.
Thomas Harmon. I'm Bridget Brennan. You're safe.
The boy stared at her, then at Marcus. Then he started to cry, silent sobs that shook his whole body. Bridget wrapped a blanket around him and pulled him close.
It's all right. We're going to get you home.
The boy shook his head violently. The boy spoke through tears. Can't go home. Mr. Wainwright said he'd hurt Mama. Said if I told anyone about the book, he'd burn our house. I ran. Mama told me to run here. Said Miss Brennan's father was a good man, and maybe his place was safe. I hid in the barn. I was so scared.
You did exactly right. You're very brave.
The boy looked at Marcus, then at Bridget again. The boy's voice steadied slightly. Did you find it? The book. Mama said it's proof. Said if something happened to her, someone good needed to see it.
We found it. And we're going to make sure the right people know what's in it.
But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. Wainwright's men are searching the area.
As if summoned by his name, voices rose outside, closer now. The searchline had reached the homestead. Light flickered through the cracks in the cabin walls. Marcus moved to the window, peering out. 6 men, spread in a loose arc, torches held high. And in the center, Ira Wainwright himself. Tall, heavy-set, dressed in a long coat, his face hard in the torchlight. His right hand stayed near his belt, where Marcus knew he kept a pistol. Wainwright's voice carried over the rain, loud and bullying. Wainwright shouted to his men, "Check every building. Barn, cabin, sheds. Boy's out here somewhere. Find him, and bring him to me. Bring anyone else you find, too." Marcus turned from the window.
We can't fight 6 men. We need to move.
The reeds. We can lose them in the reeds.
With a child in this cold.
Better than waiting here to be found.
She was right. Marcus grabbed the shotgun and checked the loads. Bridget tucked the recipe book inside her coat and wrapped Thomas tighter in the blanket. They slipped out the back door as the first man reached the front porch. The barn was 10 yards away. The reeds another 20 beyond that. They ran low and fast, Thomas between them, his small hand clutching Bridget's. Behind them, a shout. They'd been seen, a gunshot cracked, wild and high. Marcus turned and fired the shotgun over the heads of the pursuers, buying seconds. They crashed into the reeds, water splashing, stalks whipping at their faces. Another shot, closer. Thomas stumbled, and Bridget hauled him up, never slowing. The reeds were thick, head high, a maze in the dark. But Bridget had walked this shore with her father. She knew where the channels ran deep and where the ground stayed firm. She led them south, parallel to the lake, away from the cabin. The voices behind them spread out. Men thrashing through the reeds, cursing the water in the dark. Wainwright's bellow rose above the rest, demanding they find the boy, offering money. Marcus reloaded the shotgun as they moved, his hands slick with rain. They were 50 yards into the reeds when Thomas went down hard, his ankle twisting on a submerged root. He cried out before he could stop himself. The men heard. The pursuit turned toward them like hounds on a scent. Bridget hauled Thomas up, and Marcus took the boy's other arm. They moved faster, half dragging him, water to their thighs now. The lakeshore dropped away, and they were in the shallows. Reeds thinning. No cover ahead. Open water behind. They were trapped. Marcus looked back. Torches converging. 3 men close. Wainwright's bulk visible in the rear. He made a decision.
Take Thomas. Go east along the shore. There's a fisherman's shack, half a mile down. Hide there.
What are you doing?
Buying time.
No.
Bridget, please. I can slow them. You can save him. That's what matters.
She stared at him, rain streaming down her face, and for a moment, he thought she'd argue. Then she took Thomas's hand and ran, splashing along the shore, staying in the shallows where the mud was firmest. Marcus watched her go until the dark swallowed her. Then he turned to face the men. He fired the shotgun once, into the reeds at waist height. Buckshot shredded stalks and someone screamed. The pursuit stopped. Marcus reloaded, his hands steady, his heart hammering. He had 2 shells left. Wainwright's voice came from the dark. Closer than expected. Fletcher, isn't it? Piano player. Thought you were smarter than to get involved in things that don't concern you.
A missing child concerns everyone.
Wainwright laughed. A mean sound. That boy's mother stole from me. Took records. Wrote lies. I'm just recovering my property.
You mean the proof you've been defrauding homesteaders and bribing officials?
A pause. Then Wainwright's voice again, harder. So you know. Doesn't matter. After tonight, there won't be any proof. Won't be any witnesses. You're standing in water with an empty gun, Fletcher.
Not empty.
Marcus fired again, aiming at the torch nearest Wainwright. The torch fell, extinguished in the water. Shouts, confusion. 1 shell left. He backed away, moving east after Bridget, keeping the shotgun raised. Wainwright's men regrouped, 2 torches still burning. They advanced carefully now, spread wide. Marcus turned and ran. The water dragged at his legs. The reeds grabbed at his coat. He couldn't see Bridget or Thomas. He just had to trust she'd made it to the shack. Behind him, the men crashed through the shallows, gaining. His boot caught on something, and he went down hard, water closing over his head. He came up gasping, the shotgun gone. A hand grabbed his collar and hauled him up. One of Wainwright's men grinning, missing 2 front teeth. The man pulled a knife. Marcus drove his elbow into the man's gut and tore free, stumbling forward. Another man loomed out of the dark, swinging a torch like a club. Marcus ducked, felt the heat pass over his head. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted, using the man's weight to throw him sideways into the reeds. The torch fell, sputtering. Marcus ran again, lungs burning. The shore rose slightly, and he was on mud then grass. A shape ahead, low and dark. The fisherman's shack. He ran for it, praying Bridget was inside, praying she had the Derringer. The door flew open, and she was there, the little pistol raised.
Get down.
He threw himself flat, and she fired over his head. The shot was small, but loud in the night. Behind him, one of Wainwright's men yelped and fell back. Marcus scrambled through the door and Bridget slammed it, dropping the bar across. The shack was tiny. One room, a dirt floor, gaps in the walls. Thomas huddled in the corner, eyes wide. Marcus leaned against the wall, breathing hard.
One shot left. In that.
I know.
Footsteps outside, circling. Wainwright's voice, close to the door. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Give me the boy and the book. Walk away. I'm a reasonable man.
You're a killer. And a thief.
Wainwright sighed. The fire was an accident. Your father's claim is still good, Miss Brennan. I checked. You keep your land. I just need what's mine.
The boy isn't yours. The truth in that book isn't yours.
Another pause. When Wainwright spoke again, the reasonable tone was gone. Burn it. Someone threw a torch onto the shack roof. The old wood caught fast, flames spreading. Smoke poured through the gaps in the walls. Thomas started coughing. Marcus looked at Bridget and saw his own desperation reflected in her eyes. They had seconds before the roof came down. He grabbed the rope from his belt, the one they'd brought from the wagon.
The back wall. We kick it out and run for the lake. Deep water. They can't follow on horseback, and we can swim.
Thomas can't swim.
We'll hold him. It's the only way.
She nodded. Marcus and Bridget kicked at the weakest boards in the back wall, the old wood splintering. 3 kicks, and a section fell away. Smoke billowed out. Marcus grabbed Thomas. Bridget grabbed the recipe book and her camera bag. And they ran. The lake was 20 feet away, dark and cold. They hit the water running, going deep fast. The cold was a shock, stealing breath. Thomas gasped, and Marcus held him up, one arm around the boy's chest. Bridget swam beside them, strong, steady strokes. Behind them, the shack collapsed in a shower of sparks. Wainwright's men stood on the shore, silhouetted against the flames. One raised a rifle. Wainwright barked an order. Hold fire. I want them alive. Get the boat. They had a boat. Marcus swore under his breath and swam harder, angling south along the shore. The water was deep here, over his head, and Thomas was dead weight. Bridget stayed close, her face pale in the darkness. The cold was already sapping their strength. They couldn't stay in the water long. A quarter-mile down the shore, Marcus saw a dark line jutting into the lake. The old ferry dock, abandoned for years. He aimed for it, his arms burning. They reached the pilings and clung to the slimy wood, gasping. Thomas was shaking uncontrollably. Bridget pulled him close, sharing heat. Behind them, the sound of oars. The boat was coming.
Under the dock. Hide in the pilings.
They ducked under the structure, holding on to the crossbeams. The water was chest deep here, the pilings thick with algae. The boat passed overhead, oars creaking. Wainwright's voice came from above, so close Marcus could have reached up and touched the hull. They're here somewhere. Check the pilings. A torch thrust down into the water, light dancing on the surface. Marcus pressed Thomas against a piling, holding his hand over the boy's mouth. The light swept past them, inches away. Then the boat moved on, searching further south. They waited, shivering, until the sound of oars faded. Marcus let out a breath.
We need to get to shore. Dry clothes. Fire. Or we'll freeze.
The cabin. It's the closest shelter.
They'll be watching it.
Not if they think we drowned. Not if we're smart.
She was right again. They swam to shore, crawling out onto the mud like half-drowned rats. The cold was bone-deep now. Dangerous. Bridget opened her camera bag. Somehow, incredibly, she'd kept it mostly dry. She pulled out an oilcloth packet and unwrapped it. Matches. Dry matches. Marcus could have kissed her. They stumbled through the reeds, moving slow and quiet, back toward the homestead. The cabin was dark. The barn was dark. Wainwright's men were gone, probably searching the southern shore. Marcus and Bridget got Thomas into the cabin and shut the door. No light, not yet. They stripped the boy out of his wet clothes and wrapped him in every dry blanket they could find. Then, they stripped themselves, practical and quick. No modesty in the face of hypothermia. Bridget started a fire in the fireplace using kindling from the woodpile inside. The flames caught, and heat began to spread. Marcus found a pot and started heating water. Thomas stopped shaking after 10 minutes, color returning to his face. The boy spoke, his voice small. "Thank you."
You're safe now.
The boy looked at her, then at Marcus. "Are you going to stop him?" "Mr. Wainwright."
Yes.
The boy nodded, satisfied. "Mama said someone would. She said, good people don't let bad things happen forever."
Your mother is very brave.
The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Is she all right?" He didn't hurt her, did he? Bridget looked at Marcus. Neither of them knew. Marcus made a decision.
We're going to find out. As soon as it's light, we're going back to town. We're taking the book to people who can't be bought. Federal marshal, territorial judge, someone. And we're making sure your mother is safe.
The boy nodded and closed his eyes, exhaustion taking him. Bridget sat beside the fire, the recipe book open on her lap, reading by firelight. Marcus watched her, the way the light caught in her hair, the determined set of her jaw. She looked up and caught him staring.
What?
Nothing. Just thinking you're tougher than anyone gives you credit for.
I have to be. Woman alone in this territory, people assume you need saving.
You don't.
No. But it turns out having help isn't the same as needing it.
Something passed between them, a recognition. Marcus moved closer, sitting on the floor beside her chair. She didn't move away.
Your brother. What was his name?
Daniel. He was younger than me. Believed in doing right even when it cost him.
He'd be proud of you.
Maybe. Or maybe he'd say I should have acted sooner.
You're acting now. That's what counts.
She reached out and touched his hand, just briefly, then went back to the book. Marcus felt that touch like a brand. They stayed there until the fire burned low and the first gray light of dawn showed through the cracks. Marcus stood and checked outside. No sign of Wainwright's men. The rain had stopped. He came back in and found Bridget putting the book back in its oilcloth.
We should move before they come back.
Agreed. But we need a plan. 6 men and Wainwright. We can't fight them.
We don't fight. We go around. There's a trail through the hills east of here. Rough but passable. Comes out near the telegraph office in Plainview. 10 miles.
Can Thomas walk it?
He'll have to.
They woke the boy and fed him hardtack softened in hot water. He was pale, but determined. They dressed in their half-dry clothes and gathered what they could carry. Bridget insisted on bringing her camera.
If we're going to accuse a powerful man, we need proof beyond a book that could be called forgeries. I'm going to photograph the sites he's stolen. Document the markers. Build a case.
That'll take time we don't have.
Then, we move fast.
They left the cabin as the sun broke the horizon, walking east into the hills. The land rose in long swells, grass and scattered rocks. They stayed low, out of sight. After an hour, they looked back and saw smoke rising from the direction of Bridget's homestead. Wainwright burning evidence. Marcus felt his jaw tighten.
He's erasing the trail.
He can't erase what's in that book. And he can't erase us.
They walked through the morning, Thomas keeping pace without complaint. Around midday, they stopped to rest in a gully. Marcus climbed the rim and scouted. No pursuit visible. But when he looked toward Sagebrush Flats, he saw more smoke. A lot of smoke.
Something's burning in town.
Bridget climbed up beside him and stared.
That's the freight office. Or near it.
Maybe someone figured out what Wainwright's doing.
Or maybe he's tying up loose ends.
Thomas. They both looked at the boy. He was staring at the smoke, his face white. Mama. She works in the freight office. She's there. The boy started to run back toward town. Marcus caught him, holding him firm but gentle.
We don't know she's there. We don't know what's happening.
Thomas struggled. Let me go, I have to help her.
The best way to help her is to get this book to someone who can stop Wainwright. If we go back now, he wins. Your mother didn't risk everything, so you could walk back into his hands.
The boy stopped struggling, tears on his face. You promise we'll check? You promise?
I promise.
They turned east again and pushed harder, half jogging now. The hills gave way to flatter ground, and by mid-afternoon they reached the outskirts of Plainview. It was a smaller town than Sagebrush Flats, just a main street and a few cross streets. But it had a telegraph office and a territorial courthouse. They went to the courthouse first. The clerk was a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes. She listened to their story, looked at the book, and called for the circuit judge. The judge was out. Back tomorrow. Marcus wanted to punch something.
We need help now. Today.
The clerk looked at them, at the boy, at the mud and desperation written on all three. The clerk spoke with authority. Federal Marshal is in Kearney. I can wire him, but it'll take him 2 days to get here.
2 days.
The clerk nodded. I can also wire the territorial governor's office. Put pressure on. But you need to understand, Ira Wainwright has friends. This won't be quick.
People are dying.
The clerk's face softened. Then, you need to stay alive long enough for the law to catch up. She sent the wires. They waited in the courthouse, taking turns sleeping on the benches. Thomas curled up with his head on Bridget's lap, and slept hard. Marcus watched them, something fierce and protective rising in his chest. Bridget looked up, and their eyes met.
What happens after?
After what?
After we stop Wainwright. After the law comes. What do you do?
I don't know. I came here to finish what my brother started. After that,
He trailed off. Bridget waited.
maybe I stay. If there's a reason,
Such as,
such as a woman who runs a photography studio and a homestead alone, and might be persuaded that company isn't the same as weakness.
She looked at him for a long moment, something unreadable in her eyes. Then she smiled, small and real.
I might be persuaded. If the company is worth having.
I play a decent piano.
I noticed.
Thomas stirred and woke, blinking up at them. Are we safe here?
For now.
But safe didn't last. Near dusk, the courthouse door slammed open and a man stumbled in, bleeding from a shoulder wound. It was one of Wainwright's men, the one Marcus had thrown into the reeds. He collapsed on the floor, gasping. The man spoke, his voice hoarse. Wainwright's coming. He found out you're here. He's bringing everyone. Going to burn this place too if he has to. He shot me when I said it was too far. The clerk ran for the doctor. Marcus helped the man sit up.
How many men?
The man coughed. 8, maybe 10. He's gone mad. Keeps saying he's too close to lose it all now.
How long?
The man looked at her. An hour, maybe less. He was riding hard. Marcus stood and pulled Bridget aside.
We need to leave. Now.
And go where? He'll chase us down. We're on foot. He's on horseback.
Then, we make a stand.
Against 10 men.
You have a better idea.
She looked around the courthouse, thinking fast. Then her eyes landed on her camera.
We document everything. Right now. I photograph the book. Every page. Multiple plates. We hide the plates in different places. Then, if Wainwright takes the book, we still have proof.
That doesn't stop him from killing us.
No. But it means killing us doesn't save him. If we're dead and the plates surface, he's finished. We make sure he knows that.
You want to bluff.
I want to make it not worth his while.
It was insane. It might work. They spent the next 30 minutes in a frenzy. Bridget set up her camera and photographed every page of the recipe book, working with frantic precision. Marcus and the clerk prepared copies of the telegraph messages, sealed them in envelopes. Thomas helped hide the photographic plates in different locations: the courthouse basement, the clerk's home, the church across the street. When the sound of hoofbeats echoed up the main street, they were ready. Or as ready as they could be. Bridget stood on the courthouse steps, Marcus beside her, the recipe book in her hands. Thomas was hidden inside with the clerk. Wainwright rode up with 9 men, all armed, all looking grim. The freight agent dismounted slowly, his hand near his gun. Wainwright spoke, his voice hard and loud. "You've caused me a lot of trouble, Miss Brennan."
You've caused a lot more. Murder, arson, fraud, theft. It's all in this book. All documented.
Wainwright smiled, cold. "Then, I'll take the book. And I'll take you and Fletcher." and the boy, and anyone else who knows too much.
You can take the book. But we've already photographed every page. The plates are hidden. The territorial governor has been wired. The federal marshal is on his way. If anything happens to us, those plates will be published in every newspaper from here to Washington.
Wainwright's smile faltered. You're lying.
Test it. Shoot us. See what happens.
Wainwright stared at them, his hand twitching near his gun. His men shifted, uneasy. One of them, a younger man, spoke up. The younger hired man spoke nervously. Boss, if the law's already involved, maybe we should. Wainwright turned on him. Shut up. But the doubt was there now, spreading through the group. Marcus saw it and pressed.
Your men signed on to move freight and maybe scare some homesteaders. Not murder. Not a fight with federal marshals. How many of them are willing to hang for you?
Another man shifted, then another. Wainwright saw it too. His face turned red. You think you've won. You think this is over. I have lawyers. I have money. I have friends in every capital in the territory.
And we have the truth. Let's see which one lasts longer.
Wainwright stood there, breathing hard, his hand still near his gun. For a moment, Marcus thought he'd draw. Then the freight agent turned and mounted his horse. This isn't finished.
Yes, it is.
Wainwright yanked his horse around and rode out, his men following, some looking back over their shoulders. The street fell quiet. Bridget let out a breath she'd been holding for 5 minutes.
Did that just work?
I think it did.
The clerk came out, Thomas with her. The clerk spoke with relief. The marshal will be here day after tomorrow. I'll make sure those plates stay safe until then.
Thank you.
Thomas looked up at Bridget. Can we go check on Mama now?
Yes. Let's go.
They borrowed horses from the town stable and rode back to Sagebrush Flats through the night. The town was quiet when they arrived, a burned-out shell where the freight office had been. But the Harmon house was intact. Sarah Harmon opened the door at their knock, her face gaunt with worry. When she saw Thomas, she let out a cry and pulled him into her arms. Sarah Harmon spoke through tears. I thought you were dead. I thought he'd killed you. Thomas hugged her tight. Miss Brennan and Mr. Fletcher saved me. They stopped him. Sarah looked up at Bridget and Marcus, tears streaming. Thank you. Thank you. Bridget touched her shoulder.
It's not over yet. But it will be. The law is coming.
Sarah nodded, holding her son. I'll testify. Whatever they need. He has to pay.
He will.
They left the Harmons and walked through the dark town to Bridget's studio. The building was untouched, locked up tight. Bridget opened the door and lit a lamp. Everything was as she'd left it. Her cameras, her chemicals, her father's old desk. She sank into a chair, exhaustion hitting her all at once. Marcus sat on the floor beside her, his back against the wall.
We did it.
We survived it.
Same thing.
She looked down at him, lamplight soft on her face.
You could have walked away. At any point. This wasn't your fight.
It was the moment you opened that door.
Why?
Because you looked at me like I wasn't crazy for caring. Because you didn't hesitate when that boy needed help. Because I've spent 3 months watching you prove to this town that you don't need anyone, and I wanted to be the one you chose anyway.
She stared at him, her green eyes wide.
That's a lot to say to someone you barely know.
I know enough.
Such as,
You're brave and stubborn and kind. You're a terrible liar, but a good shot. You keep matches in oilcloth, and you carry a Derringer that scares me more than Wainwright's rifle. You loved your father, and you're trying to honor him. And when you smile, it's like the sun coming out.
She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she slid out of the chair and sat beside him on the floor, their shoulders touching.
I know you listen more than you talk. You play piano like you're telling secrets. You loved your brother, and you're trying to finish what he started. You're calm, until you're not, and then you're terrifying. You think 9 steps ahead, and you don't leave people behind.
Is that enough?
It's a start.
He turned toward her, and she turned toward him, and the space between them disappeared. He kissed her, gentle at first, then deeper when she didn't pull away. Her hand came up to his face, her fingers tracing his jaw. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his.
I don't know how to do this. The not alone part.
Neither do I. We'll figure it out.
You're staying. In Sagebrush Flats.
If you want me to.
I want you to.
2 days later, the federal marshal arrived with 4 deputies. Wainwright was arrested at his home, along with 3 of his men who hadn't run. The trial was set for the territorial capital. Sarah Harmon's testimony, combined with the recipe book and Marcus's map and Bridget's photographs, built an unshakable case. Wainwright's lawyer tried to fight, but the evidence was overwhelming. By the time fall turned to winter, Ira Wainwright was in prison, and the homestead claims were being sorted out properly. The families who'd been cheated got their land back. The ones who'd been scared off were invited to return. Sagebrush Flats started to heal. Bridget reopened her studio, and the business picked up. Marcus took a job at the new land office, using his surveyor knowledge to help fix the mess Wainwright had made. In the evenings, he played piano at the saloon, and Bridget came to listen. On a cold evening in early winter, Marcus walked out to the lakeside homestead with Bridget. The cabin had been repaired, the barn reinforced. Snow dusted the reeds along the shore. They stood together on the porch, watching the sun set over the water.
I've been thinking about this place. What my father meant it to be.
A refuge.
A home. For people who need one.
Do you need one?
I think I do. Not to hide. Just to be.
With anyone in particular?
She turned to face him, her breath misting in the cold air.
With you. If you're asking.
I'm asking.
She smiled. The real smile. The one that made his chest hurt.
Then yes.
He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, simple silver, with a single small stone.
I don't have much, but I have this, and I have a promise. I'll stand with you. I'll listen to you. I'll choose you. Every day.
She took the ring, her hands shaking slightly, and slipped it on.
And I promise I'll let you. Which is harder for me than you know.
I know.
They stood there as the light faded, then walked back to town together, their hands clasped. A month later, they were married in the little church. Thomas Harmon standing up with Marcus as his best man. Sarah Harmon helping Bridget with her dress. The whole town came. Even the saloon closed for the afternoon. The ceremony was short and simple. The kiss was long and sure. That night they went back to the lakeside homestead and built a fire in the hearth. The cabin was warm now, filled with their things. A quilt on the bed, books on the shelf, Marcus's piano sheet music stacked beside Bridget's camera plates. They sat together on the porch despite the cold, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars come out over the frozen lake.
Do you think it's always going to be this hard?
What?
Life out here. Fighting for what's yours.
Probably.
Good. I'd be bored otherwise.
He laughed and pulled her closer.
You're terrifying.
You like it.
I love it. I love you.
She turned her head and kissed him, soft and slow.
I love you too.
The winter passed into spring. The homestead bloomed. Bridget's studio thrived. Marcus helped rebuild the land office systems and played piano 3 nights a week. They worked hard, laughed often, and built a life that belonged to them. On a warm evening in late spring, they rowed out to the old fisherman's dock where they'd hidden from Wainwright. Someone had repaired it. Kids were fishing off the end. Bridget and Marcus sat on the shore, watching the sun turn the water gold.
Do you ever think about that night? In the water.
Sometimes.
I thought we were going to die.
Me too.
And then we didn't.
And then we didn't.
She leaned against him, his arm around her shoulders.
I'm glad we didn't.
Me too.
They stayed there until the stars came out, talking about nothing and everything, making plans for the summer, for the years ahead. The prairie stretched around them, endless and wild. But they weren't alone in it anymore. They had each other. They had a town that had learned to stand together. They had a future they'd fought for and won. As they rode home under the stars, Bridget looked over at Marcus and smiled.
Thank you.
For what?
For not walking away. For standing with me. For choosing this.
Always.
And he meant it. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The homestead lights glowed ahead, warm and welcoming. They rode toward home, side by side. 2 people who'd been alone, and were alone no longer. The prairie wind sang around them, carrying the promise of a life built on trust and courage and love. And that was enough. That was everything. The next morning, Marcus woke to find Bridget already up, standing on the porch with her camera. The dawn light was soft and golden, perfect for photographs. She was taking pictures of the homestead, the barn, the reeds, the lake, building a record of their life here. He walked out and stood beside her.
What are you doing?
Remembering. So I never forget how hard we worked for this.
You could never forget.
Maybe not. But someday, our children might need to know. Might need to see that good things are worth fighting for.
He looked at her, surprise and joy flooding through him.
Children.
She smiled, shy and sure at once.
Someday. If you want.
I want.
She took his hand, and they stood together, watching the sun rise over the lake, over the land they'd saved, over the life they were building. It wasn't perfect. It would never be easy. But it was theirs, earned and chosen and real. And that morning, standing beside the woman he loved in the place they'd made safe, Marcus Fletcher knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. The camera clicked. Bridget captured the moment. And the day began. Ordinary and precious. The first of countless days to come. Later that morning, they rode into town for supplies. The streets were busy, people going about their lives. The new land office was open, the rebuilt freight office under honest management. The church bell rang for a wedding, someone else starting their story. Bridget stopped at the mercantile, while Marcus went to check on a survey dispute. When they met back at the wagon, she was carrying a package.
I got something.
What?
She opened the package. Inside was a ledger book, new and clean, leather-bound like Sarah Harmon's recipe book, but empty.
I thought we could start our own record. Not codes or secrets. Just our life. What we build. What matters.
A family history.
Something like that.
He took the book and opened it to the first page.
What do we write?
The truth. That we met in a hard time. That we chose each other. That we made something good out of something bad.
He pulled a pencil from his pocket and wrote in careful script. Marcus Fletcher and Bridget Brennan. Married January 1880. Sagebrush Flats, Nebraska. A beginning. She leaned over his shoulder and added, built on trust, courage, and love. They closed the book and put it in the wagon. There would be more to write later. Years of it. Stories their children and grandchildren would read. But for now, this was enough. They drove home through the spring afternoon, the sun warm on their faces, the prairie spreading green and alive around them. The homestead came into view, solid and real, a place they defended and claimed and made their own. That evening they sat on the porch as the sun set, the new ledger on the table between them. The first page was written. The rest was waiting.
Do you think we'll fill it?
Every page.
That's a lot of living.
We've got time.
She rested her head on his shoulder, her hand in his.
Yes, we do.
The stars came out one by one. The lake turned silver in the moonlight. Inside the cabin, the fire burned warm. Tomorrow would bring work and challenges and the ordinary struggles of frontier life. But tonight was for rest and gratitude, and the quiet joy of being exactly where they belong. Marcus looked at the woman beside him, his wife, his partner, his choice.
I'm glad it was you.
What?
That night you opened the door. I'm glad it was you.
She lifted her head and kissed him, gentle and sure.
Me too.
And they sat together as the night deepened. Two people who'd been alone and were alone no longer, building a life one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of courage and love at a time. The prairie winds sang around them, carrying the scent of grass and water and growing things. The homestead stood solid, a shelter they'd fought for and won. And inside the cabin, on the table, the new ledger waited for all the stories yet to come. Stories of children born and raised, of hard winters survived and good harvests celebrated, of neighbors helped and dangers faced, of a life built on the foundation of that first choice, that first moment when Marcus knocked on Bridget's door and she let him in. But those stories were for later. Tonight was for gratitude, for looking at what they'd built and knowing it was good. for holding each other in the darkness and feeling safe, for being home. The moon rose higher. The stars wheeled overhead. And Marcus and Bridget sat together on their porch, watching the night, living the life they'd chosen, loving the person they'd found. It wasn't perfect. It would never be easy. But it was theirs. And that was everything. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. Summer came to the prairie, hot and bright. The homestead garden flourished under Bridget's care. Marcus took on more surveying work, helping families secure their claims properly. The town continued to heal from Wainwright's damage. In July, word came that Wainwright had died in prison. Some said illness. Others said a fight with another inmate. Either way, he was gone. The threat was over. Bridget felt nothing when she heard. No relief, no satisfaction. Just a quiet acknowledgement that justice, in its own way, had been served. That evening she told Marcus,
It's finished. He's dead.
How do you feel?
Like we can finally stop looking over our shoulders.
Good.
They sat together in the garden, the vegetables growing tall around them. Thomas Harmon came by later with his mother. The boy had grown 3 inches since winter, his confidence back. He helped Marcus repair a fence while Sarah and Bridget talked about starting a women's cooperative for selling eggs and preserves. Life moved forward. Normal and precious and hard-won. In August, Bridget missed her monthly time. By September, she was certain. She told Marcus on a cool evening as they sat by the fire.
I'm pregnant.
He stared at her, the words taking a moment to register. Then a smile broke across his face, wide and joyful.
You're sure?
I'm sure.
When?
Spring. April. Maybe.
He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight.
We're going to be parents.
Are you ready?
No. Are you?
Not even a little.
They both laughed, giddy and terrified, and happy.
We'll figure it out.
Together.
Together.
The baby came in April, a girl with her mother's green eyes and her father's dark hair. They named her Caroline, after Bridget's mother. The birth was hard, but Sarah Harmon and the town midwife saw Bridget through it. Marcus paced the porch for 8 hours, Thomas keeping him company. When he finally held his daughter, he cried.
She's perfect.
She's ours.
They wrote it all in the ledger. Caroline's birth, her first smile, her first word. The life they were building, recorded page by page. The homestead grew. They added a room to the cabin, built a proper darkroom for Bridget's photography, planted an orchard, bought 2 more horses and a milk cow. Marcus played piano at weddings and barn dances. Bridget photographed families and events, her reputation spreading beyond Sagebrush Flats. They made a good living, not rich but comfortable, and they were happy. 2 years later, a son, James, after Marcus's brother, strong and loud and fearless from the start. The house filled with noise and laughter and the chaos of small children. Some days were hard. Crops failed. Storms damaged the barn. Caroline got sick one winter, and they stayed up 3 nights straight, terrified. But she recovered. They rebuilt. They kept going. And through it all, Marcus and Bridget held to each other, the partnership they'd forged in danger, proving strong in peace. On a summer evening 5 years after they married, Marcus and Bridget walked down to the old corral by the barn. The stars were coming out, the air warm and still. Caroline and James were asleep inside, watched by Sarah Harmon, who'd become like family. They leaned against the corral fence, shoulders touching, watching the horses graze in the paddock.
Do you remember?
Remember? What?
That first night. When you came to my studio.
I remember thinking you were going to shoot me.
I almost did.
I know.
She laughed, the sound soft and easy.
I'm glad I didn't.
Me too.
He turned to face her, taking both her hands.
I meant what I wrote in the ledger. This is everything I wanted and didn't know to want. You, the children, this place, this life.
Even the hard parts.
Especially the hard parts, because they taught me what matters.
She reached up and touched his face, her fingers gentle.
I was so determined to do everything alone, to prove I didn't need anyone.
And now?
Now I know the difference between needing and choosing. I don't need you to survive. I choose you because life is better with you in it.
That's all I ever wanted. To be chosen.
You are. Every day.
He kissed her, slow and deep. The kind of kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his.
Thank you for knocking on my door.
Thank you for opening it.
They stood there as full darkness fell, holding each other beside the corral, speaking truths they'd earned the right to speak. The homestead around them was quiet, the children safe inside, the land peaceful under the stars. It had been 5 years since that desperate night in the reeds. 5 years since they'd fought for a child's life and exposed a corrupt man's crimes. 5 years since 2 strangers became partners, then friends, then lovers, then family. The path hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every step. Marcus looked at his wife, at the woman who'd opened her door to a stranger with a dangerous map and a desperate plan.
I love you.
I love you too.
Forever.
Forever.
And they meant it. Standing beside the corral under lantern light, they spoke the promises they'd lived every day since they met. To stand together, to choose each other, to build a life worth fighting for. The next morning would bring work and responsibilities and all the ordinary challenges of frontier life. But tonight was for this. For love declared and promises renewed. For 2 people who'd found each other in darkness and built something bright. The stars wheeled overhead. The prairie wind sang through the grass. And Marcus and Bridget stood together, exactly where they belonged, living the life they'd chosen, loving the person they'd found. It was enough. It was everything. And it was theirs.